Hi guys, I'm Shane Snipes, and you're watching Sustainable 1000 TV and radio. I'm traveling around the country doing 1,000 interviews across 48 states, and I had originally thought I was going to be done in 250 days, but guess what? Plans change, and it's going to be a little longer than that. But I am up to 700 plus interviews now. Pretty amazing. It's been interesting to explore this, and I'm here today with the owner and the folks who run the Mez restaurant in Raleigh. And I'd be interested, from your perspective, what what was your idea or what was your intention with kind of diving into this idea of lead certification for a restaurant?
Well, we had a record of, we started about 15, 16 years ago with being very aggressive with recycling. We were doing all the usual suspects, aluminum, tin, plastic, glass, but we were approached by the manager of the Orange County landfill, the solid waste manager, and he proposed a program where they would collect food scraps, which is a huge part of our waste. So we agreed to do that, and it really wasn't that difficult to do, but we save our food scraps. Originally, they were used to feed pigs. But then it became more efficient we went with one company, and the pig farmers, they didn't really like it that much, so now it's being turned into compost. But as of 15 years ago, we reduced our solid waste between 65 and 70%. So we had a record of doing sustainable things. When I took over our marketing about 6, 7 years ago, we went from doing a lot of traditional advertising to doing a lot more stuff in the community. We quit doing traditional advertising pretty much altogether. We do a few ads now and then, but mostly we started doing fundraising events for people. We would furnish all the food and all the drink, and they would raise money, and then that was our marketing. We became known as the people that gave back to the community, which I really liked. So we were headed in that direction, and when we bought this piece of property to do Mez, when we met with the architects at the beginning, I had a friend that had started building houses with passive solar, and he suggested the idea of solar panels. So we went into the meeting with the architect. I brought that up, and they had just become conversant in LEED design. So we kind of felt it out and made the decision that it certainly fit the profile of our company. So we decided to do it without knowing that much about it. If we'd known more, no, we would have done it, but it would have been a little scarier. But we did have a lot of help from the University of North Carolina through the Institute for the Environment over there. We had a professor there, Doug Crawford Brown, who assigned a couple of students to help us through the process. So they did a lot of the paperwork, they did a lot of the legwork, finding companies that could furnish certain products, and it ended up probably costing us another $100,000 and probably 6 months of time to open the restaurant, but we felt that it was well worth it.
Sure, sure. And you guys, you have other restaurants too. What's been the process for you to sort of take Mez? Is Mez sort of the evolution of your learning about what it is to run a sustainable restaurant?
Well, to a point, as far as building the building goes, but as the day-to-day operations, we were already doing those things. So the lead process is something we've actually just bought another piece of property out here in the RTP, and we're going to be doing another restaurant, and it's going to be LEED certified too. Anything we do in the future, we will certainly do LEED certified.
And why? Why would you go LEED every time?
Well, it's just the right thing to do. I mean, we made that decision a long time ago that we wanted to do things the right way. Our restaurants are based on quality product and value, and making a decision to try to be a good corporate citizen was a no-brainer for my partners and I. I mean, it was the right thing to do, and that literally was the bottom line. Was just, we need to set the example. Our industry is a very wasteful industry. It really is. We use a lot of energy, we use a lot of product, we create a lot of waste. So from day one, we made the decision to try to do things the right way, and that literally was the extension of that.
Sure. In terms of that learning and what it takes to make sort of a sustainable choice and close the loop with your waste and do all those sorts of things, what's been the evolution for that learning process? What have you done, say specifically in the waste stream, that you feel like you've innovated for yourselves and how you run your restaurants?
Well, just being more efficient is the main thing. Our waste stream, we've talked about that, recycling food scraps. We have a seafood restaurant, Squids, in Chapel Hill. We've been recycling our oyster shells there for many years. We didn't want to put them in the landfill, so we actually were giving them to people to use in their for gardens and pathways and driveways. But then we actually got a gentleman who was willing to take the shells to the coast for us, and they started using them to rebuild the state's oyster beds. So even though it was a bit of a pain, you know, every Saturday for several years, I had to go down to Squids and load the oyster shells in my truck and take them over to this seafood market and load them in his truck. He would take them down to the coast. Now the Orange County landfill has a spot where we can recycle our oyster shells, and the people on the coast come up and pick them up. But, you know, the whole thing has been, our whole philosophy is to do things the right way, to be a good corporate citizen. So it's all made sense to just do things this way. When you're more efficient, when you're using better equipment, you save. I mean, Mez's, we have a restaurant in Raleigh, 518 West, which is a great Italian Mediterranean restaurant. Same size building as this, basically around 10,000 square feet. But we're using 40% less energy at this building and 60% less water, and doing, truthfully, more business here than we are there. So as you learn more, as technology gets better, you can quit producing as much waste, which is really important to us because, as I said, our industry produces a lot of waste. You know, making the commitment years ago to use biocompostable and biodegradable to-go products is a no-brainer. You know, we were like, yeah, it costs a little bit more, but we don't want to be putting styrofoam in the landfill. When I go to restaurants now and see styrofoam, I give them a hard time. I literally asked to see the manager and say, are you kidding me? Styrofoam in 2010? So, you know, it's learning and trying to adopt the practices that you need to do to run a restaurant efficiently.
Sure. And in terms of your food stream and how your food supply, as well as how you process the food and where it comes from, have you worked much with local farms and sort of the local food movement?
I started managing Spanky's, which is another one of our restaurants in Chapel Hill, back in 1979, I guess, is when I started managing there. And one of the first things I wanted to do was make the food as good as it could be. And to do that, you have to have local produce. I mean, you can't be getting tomatoes that are grown in Mexico and have a good tomato sandwich. I don't care how well they ripen in the box. Getting a vine-ripened tomato from a local farmer, no-brainer again. So we started back at Spanky's, you know, almost 30 years ago. We were dealing with local farmers, and that's just grown. You know, the local farmers have gotten a boost from the county, and they're supported by the state, and we use their products. So it's all, you know, Andrea over at Lantern, a great restaurant over in Chapel Hill, she's very involved in the slow growth movement. So we've all been doing this in this community. It's a smart community between Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Durham, Cary, Hillsborough. You know, there are a lot of smart people that want to do the right thing. So everybody supports. We have great farmers markets, and the restaurants use local produce. So yeah, we've been doing that as much as possible for a long time.
Yeah, and don't forget Apex, my old hometown.
Absolutely, Apex. Yeah, absolutely.
So I grew up. I have to give some props out to my Apex, the folks from the Peak of Good Living, as they like to say over there at Apex. I came up with that slogan. Just kidding. No, it's been around a lot longer than that. I know I look old, but not that old. So you guys, you have a bunch of questions for him, and let's take a couple of your questions in this next segment here. We're going to take a break for a quick moment, and we will be right back right after this. We will take your Facebook questions, your tweets, and all those sorts of things, so get those to us. I have my trusty smartphone here, which means I'm smarter than I was this morning when I didn't have it. So I appreciate you guys getting those to me as soon as you can, because this is a live show and we love to get your live questions. Stop by sustainable1000.com, and don't forget to stop by Mez's restaurant and its website, which is
www.mezdurham.com.
There you go.